Ladies and gentlemen, I feel truly blessed to be playing a game that comes out with such badass looking characters as Watcher of Realms. If you've looked through any of like the showcases or anything like that they're doing here in the game news, so Moradin as well as Valeria look absolutely insane. That being said though, we are actually here today to discuss and showcase and review and do a first look at somebody a little bit older. So within the past, I think 1 month he's been added to the game, past 2 months maybe. That's actually going to be Vorn. So Vorn seems to be a pretty crazy poison damage dealer, considering he can poison multiple times, whereas the rest of the heroes that we have in the game so far aren't really like that. He has absolutely fantastic reviews, and more importantly, he can also dispel a buff very consistently. And this is important because, obviously for Semra, which is one of the areas where we get some of the best rewards inside the game, we need consistent buff dispelling for the second form of the Semra, right? So when he's in the form where he gets the defense stacks and enhances his own abilities, we need to be able to rip that buff off. So we're going to take a look at Vorn and see what he's capable of doing, if he's capable of doing damage. And I'm really going to be looking to replace either Kagiri in my primary Semra team or replacing Lucius inside my secondary Semra team, because Lucius, I don't like all that much. He does good damage and whatnot, but the problem is he isn't consistent with when he can dispel the buff, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at Vorn's kit. We have a basic attack, deals 105% magic damage to one enemy, or just, damage, right? Magic attack. We have a Flesh Warp Auto. Every 20 seconds, lasts for 2 seconds. It's going to deal 3 instances of 90% damage. This is initially 70. You can get the cooldown down a little bit further. And actually, this is the cooldown, I think, not the how long it lasts. So every 20 seconds, every 15 seconds, well, when it's booked, right? Deals that instance of damage and inflicts 2 types of poison on the target. For each stack of poison on the target, increases damage dealt to them by 1% up to a 30% increase. This is pretty insane. Each time successfully inflicting or refreshing poison reduces this skill's cooldown by 1 second. So pretty crazy. Now, poison is very simple. He can deal 5% continuous magic damage per second, stacking up to 10 times. So like I say, since he can do 2 types of poison, he's essentially doing 2 sources of poison, which makes him pretty crazy. We have another passive here. Increases damage dealt to shielded targets by 30%. Applies shield break to 2 allied fighter units with the highest attack on the battlefield. Shield break increases damage dealt to shielded targets by 30%. Takes effect only when stronger than the current buff or debuff on the same attribute. So this is very strong because if you look to allied fighter units, who do we have for fighters? Well, we have some insane options. We have Kagiri, we have Lust, Arrogance, Twyla, Sun Wukong, all those sorts of heroes that you can use alongside with this guy. Each time the hero casts the ultimate, permanently gains 10% magic resistance penetration, stacking up to 4 times. And you can get an additional stack out of this, so it'll stack all the way up to 5 times. So 50% magic resistance penetration. And then I also do have him awakened. We'll go over that in a moment though. Finally, for his skills, we have an auto ultimate. Dispels up to 1 buff from the target. Then basic attack turns into 3 consecutive strikes, dealing 3 instances of 90% damage and inflicting 2 types of poison on the target. So basically guaranteed, he rips a buff off somebody, perfect for Semra. Then basic attack is going to turn into 3 times hitters, doing instances of 90% damage, so that's pretty crazy. And each one is going to inflict those poisons, I believe. For each stack of poison on the target, increases damage dealt by 1% up to a 30% increase. Again, absolute insanity with full books. This is going to last for 25 seconds on a 500 cost cooldown. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Now, his talent can inflict 2 types of poison on the target. When dealing damage by the basic attack, has a 33% chance to inflict 1 stack of poison and a 33% chance to inflict a stack of a different poison. When poison effect expires from the hero's attack target, the hero gains 1% attack increase for each stack of poison expired from this target for 15 seconds up to a 20% increase. So a very, very large kit where essentially he does a lot of poison, right? That's kind of his specialty. If we look at the player ratings, this one absolutely took me out. The top rated review right now. Ladies, is this toxic masculinity? just such a fitting review for this guy. I sat there and giggled my feet, and I, I sat there and giggled and swung my feet is what I meant to say at it. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the Awakenings. A1, which I have, applies that shield break to 3 allied fighters with the highest attack on the battlefield, which is pretty crazy. A2, attack plus 300. A3, Flesh Warp can be cast 2 consecutive times. The number of targets affected by A1 increases by 1, so he's basically empowering 4 fighters now across the battlefield. Penetration plus 5 on A4, and A5, enemies inflicted with poison deal 25% less damage to the hero. Each time the hero deals damage to a poison target, restores 1% HP for the hero, so a pretty good awakening. That being said, though, the awakenings with this guy don't seem to be truly transformative like they are with somebody like a Sun Wukong. So, you know, you don't have to be too worried about the awakenings if you don't have them. Now, he is a marksman, right? Which is a bit of a shame because we can't put Tear of Twilight on him. However, the next best thing, which we definitely can put on him, is going to be the Ichor Chalice. So I could put my maxed out Ichor Chalice on him. I'm going to put probably my plus 19 Ichor Chalice on him. Get him some decent stats there because I am going to put some crazy gear on him. So what I'm thinking is one of 2 things. We could run him inside my Sun Wukong gear, which is going to be a good combination of crit rate, crit damage, all that sort of good stuff. I could also run him inside something like my Playtest gear, which is just going to be as much attack as possible along with attack speed. No rage regen really on all my builds. Unfortunately, that's just not something that I really do. So, you know, we could do that. I'm kind of leaning towards the Playtest side of things because, again, we get good attack speed, good crit rate, decent crit damage. It's going to be kind of exactly what we want. But before I gear him, let's take a look at the gear sets that you're going to want to use, right? So if we go ahead and we take a look at player ratings, most of the players who have him built are kind of doing the same thing, which is Soulbound Arcana. Again, like, you know, a lot of the players don't actually have him built, but you look pretty much anywhere. Anybody who has this guy built out in any sort of good gear, it's going to be Soulbound Arcana on the right side, which is exactly what you want because this guy's going to be popping his ultimate a lot. It's very low cost. You want that Soulbound Arcana to come in and essentially just massively boost how much damage he's going to do because his damage increases by 10% permanently, so he's going to have 50% damage increase after popping his ult 5 times, which with how low his ult cost is, that's going to happen very quickly. So if you're just trying to build this guy, I always kind of give you, you know, gear show or like gear guides, right? So what sets you want to use, all that sort of good stuff. So Soulbound Arcana is fantastic. Infernal Roar is still very solid as well, right? This guy's doing a ton of basic attacks. Even his ultimate is all just basic attacks. Infernal Roar, hands down, going to be the second best set, possibly even the best set, essentially. Because if you're not familiar, Infernal Roar does basic attack damage plus 40%, right? So it's pretty crazy. Now, Cataclysm, also going to be fine. Again, any sort of a damage dealing set is really what you're looking for. So Ageless Wrath, and again, you know, a decent option. For the left-hand side, you're really just looking damage dealing again. So Warlord, Calamity, Annihilating Might. Whirlwind would be decent. Wicked Vengeance, all those are going to be good options. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's change him into the Playtest gear here, which is going to be Soulbound Arcana. So in terms of the stats that's going to put us with, let's go ahead and take a look. So we're going to have 18,600 attack, which is insane for a marksman, ladies and gentlemen. That may not seem like much, but that's pretty crazy. 21,000 HP. We're going to have 511 attack speed, which is going to get him down to a nice, crisp 1-second attack interval. 103 and then 249 on the crit rate and crit damage, respectively. No rage regen, so getting these insane attack stats along with these insane attack speed stats really makes you sacrifice the crit rate and the crit damage. This is obviously absolutely cracked out gear, right? So I don't really expect anybody to have, you know, these stats necessarily, but as you can see, the pieces I think are very attainable, right? Like they're not min-maxed to the absolute moon. This one is actually pretty crazy. If I re-roll this crit rate stat, this is going to be like a god tier piece. But, you know, if we had flat attack here, it'd be better. We have defense bonus and all that sort of good stuff, right? So you can definitely get some pieces like this on your account as well. I believe in you. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what we want to do here. Now, in terms of leadership, he is definitely well off because he's inside the Star Piercers, which we have fantastic lords for that faction. And he's also a member of the Esotericists, which we have fantastic lords, mainly mentioning Nastia, who I don't have, unfortunately. But there's some other good, fantastic lords in here too, like Vixera, who is actually an insane hero. If you're not familiar with her, go and take a look at the video that I did on her because she is pretty cracked out as well. So for lords, we're doing pretty good. So let's go ahead and kind of just remove everybody pretty much. We're going to bring in Eluin, Pharisee, and then that's pretty much it for the most part. We're also going to bring in Diao-chan just for the inspo. So if I can find my Diao-chan and whatnot here. So this is kind of the struggle that I have sometimes. Generally, I think Watcher of Realms is looked upon more favorably than Raid Shadow Legends when it comes to the player experience, but the one thing that Raid has that I wish Watcher of Realms would implement is some sort of like a hero storage, right? So you can put your epics in there and your legendaries that you don't use, and probably your mythical heroes once, once that happens as well. But let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to have Eovar in here as the lead for our Vorn. Again, you could bring in a Vixera. Vixera is going to be a fantastic option for this as well. We're not going to bring in any other DPS. We're going to bring in Pharisee and Eluin for the survival as well as the rage regen. And then, of course, Diao-chan to help us with the inspo. So let's go ahead and let's place down our Vorn probably somewhere like this. Diao-chan here, Eluin here, Pharisee here looks good. And then we're going to go ahead and switch Diao-chan over. And let's take a look at what sort of damage he can do. So, as you can see, he's already stacking up 2 poisons. We can't control his ultimate, which is a bit questionable because, it means that we can't really choose when he pops it. So it would be nice to have it pop during when the shield is up, for example. But we're going to see how he does against the shield as well. So, obviously, when I ran the test with Vixera, she did fantastic at getting that shield down because she brought so much burst damage. Already, though, he has 4.8 million damage on the board. And with his auto ultimate, we might just get back to it during the shield, which would be pretty cool. He's about 50% on the rage regen right now as the shield goes up. As you can see, for a solo hero who's really just placing poisons, he's doing very, very good damage numbers to the shield. And keep in mind, he's obviously getting additional damage against shields as well, right? So he's doing crazy damage. He manages to pop the shield on his own. I don't think we would have gotten it there without the ult coming in, though, but you can see he's doing some very, very decent numbers here. So we're just after the shield. We're at about 15 million, 16 million roughly. Let's go ahead. Let's end the test, right? And then let's go ahead and take him into this run again, but we're going to do a couple of different things. So we're going to bring another piercer essentially that you could use in a battle like this. So we're going to bring in a Silas. And then we're also going to bring in some fighters since he empowers our fighters so we can really sort of see what kind of damage they do. And as a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and bring Sun Wukong, no Lord, and we're going to bring Arrogance, right? And we're just going to do a playtest with them, and we're not going to place down Vorn the first time. We're essentially just going to pop their ultimates as soon as they pop up in the case of Sun Wukong because his is not an auto ultimate. And then, of course, with Abomination, he's just going to do his own thing. So Sun Wukong, we're going to place here. Or Arrogance, I keep saying Abomination. We're going to put Diao-chan down, put her into Inspiration mode. We're going to get Eluin here to heal. We're going to get Pharisee over here to heal. And like I say, we're just going to pop these ultimates as soon as they pop up. And then on the next run, we're going to put Vorn in, and we're going to see how much empowerment he can do. So we're going to go right until the shield is initially popped, I think will be the best way to do it. We'll try to select like a time in the top left there that we can do it. It's 4:08 or something like that for the first shield to pop. As you can see, very good damage coming in so far. Obviously, my Arrogance and my Sun Wukong are both A5, and they both have some of the strongest gear on my account. So we expect big damage from them. You can really start to see, though, here with the Sun Wukong how much power creep there has been in the game over its time, because obviously it's not even close, right? Sun Wukong's doing like twice the damage of Arrogance. It would have been nice to save the Sun Wukong here, but like I said, we're just popping his ult as soon as it pops up. So we went ahead and popped the shield there. We're going to go to 350 on the time, though, just to make it nice and even. So boom. All right. Let's take note of this. So Sun Wukong has 22.2 million damage, and Arrogance has 13 million damage. And I'm actually going to just take a photo of this on my phone real quick for comparison. So there we go. Boom. And that's at 350 in the run. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit restart. We're going to pause this, and we're going to place our Sun Wukong in the same spot. We're going to place our Arrogance in the same spot. We're going to place our Diao Chan in the same spot. We're going to pop her into inspo mode, but what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in Vorn and see what he is capable of doing. So we'll do something like this, right? And again, we're just going to pop these ultimates as soon as they come up. The Eloin is obviously here just to make things nice and consistent in terms of, you know, rage regen and all those sorts of things. Diao Chan is here with the inspiration, helping everybody out as well. You can see Vorn is not doing as much damage as some of the other heroes, right? So obviously Sun Wukong is doing significantly more damage. Arrogance is doing significantly more damage. But that's kind of to be expected, right? Again, both of those heroes are A5. Both of them have debatably better gear. And Vorn is really just empowering those other units while still doing decent damage himself. And something to call out here is that Vorn is doing almost, like, very on par with the same damage. And we just instantly deleted that shield, by the way. I don't know if anybody noticed that. But Vorn is doing very on par damage with Arrogance. And Arrogance is A5, ladies and gentlemen. Vorn is A1. That is pretty crazy. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the comparison. So, Sun Wukong got significantly more damage, right? So we went from 22.2 million to 26.7 million. And then Arrogance got 12 million, which was actually a little bit less. And then Vorn came in with another 9 million. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to restart this. We're going to run the test again and just see if Arrogance does get less again, or if it's just kind of like a fluke. So let's go ahead and do that, do that. We'll get our Diao Chan down, get her into inspo mode. We'll place the Vorn, we'll place the Eloin, and we'll place the Pharisee. So let's go ahead and do that. And obviously him stacking up both the poisons like this is very nice because it gives us extra damage. Like I mentioned, dispelling that buff as well inside the Semra is going to be insane. And depending on the level of damage he does, I might actually be able to, like, get away with using him instead of my Kagiri, because my Kagiri is not awakened at all right now. So basically I used a hero refund scroll on my Kagiri because I had soul stoned him up to A3. And then I put all those extra soul stones into Sun Wukong. Now, it's important, again, to pay attention. Once the shield goes up, look how quickly we pop it, right? And we're not using anyone's ultimate, so to pop the shield this quickly is pretty insane, in my opinion. Sun Wukong's probably not going to get back around to his ult here, unfortunately, but it looks like the inspiration coming from him, so that would be this right here. So the increases damage dealt to shielded targets, and then he should also have the, yeah, so that's what he gives them, is the damage dealt to shielded targets. So you can see that they did more damage essentially while he was under the shield, and we went a little bit past there, but 30 million roughly. So you can see that the damage increases are coming in pretty crazily from him, which helps out, right? When you're fighting any sort of like a boss or an enemy who gets shields, certainly when you're going against, you know, Drake's Chasm, it's going to be fantastic to use him there. Let's go ahead and just go back to his kit real quick as well. Oh my god, we're starting to get a lot of pop-ups in this game, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go back to Vorn. I thought he had damage increase somewhere else inside his kits. Oh yeah, so he just applies shield break to the allies. So I thought it was a bit more amplification than that, but let's go ahead and also take him into the single target arena, which is where I always like to test some of my heroes whenever I'm trying to do a showcase on them. So let's take out Sargak and let's bring in our Vorn. We're not going to use an aura here, mainly because the factions he's a part of, you're not going to have a ton of options for them inside the single target arena. So we're really just going to place down Olog, and then we're going to place Vorn behind him and see what kind of damage he's capable of doing. Now, I don't expect a whole lot because he's not necessarily meant to burst down enemies like this. So obviously, I don't think in any scenario you're going to run him over a, for example, like a Silas, especially considering that Silas is cheaper, right? Because Silas is just going to do single target arena stuff significantly better. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. We're going to place down Diao Chan first, actually, just to get the inspiration. And then we're going to place Vorn just to give him best case scenario, essentially. I always say it, but I like to do these tests essentially inside the arenas because then it kind of scales to me, right? So you can get a very good idea of how the damage is going to look, because, you know, if I do it in some area of content, it's not really going to be a fair comparison between, like, my account and your account, or my account and some of the top players' accounts, right? So you can see he's doing some pretty okay damage, though. Once he pops his ultimate, obviously the damage comes in a little bit quicker, but it's not really quick enough to burst down enemies in the arena, I wouldn't say. Like, that, it's definitely still too slow. You really need bursts like you get from a Sun Wukong or something like that, right? I'm just going to put him here because why not? But, like, obviously you guys know how quickly Sun Wukong is able to just burst down the enemies. Even with his, like, ult not being popped, he can still get them down very quickly, because obviously he has the clones that he can summon, and he has, you know, just other abilities that make him absolutely crazy. So Vorn is not quite to that point. My headset keeps talking to me about low battery. I hope that's not showing up on the video. I'll be very, very annoyed if it is, but, you know, let's go ahead and see if we can plug it in here. Somewhere, maybe. Yeah, so that's kind of the verdict for arena usage. I don't necessarily think he's going to be, you know, the meta or anything like that here, unfortunately, but again, for PvE content, I think this guy can absolutely clap. And I think we do actually have a Semra battle available as well, on Semra 1 at least, so I can go ahead and showcase him there, because I have already done my key for the Semra 2. So we'll do APOC 1, and we have Vorn, so we can just go ahead and replace the Lucius. So let's go ahead and do that. We don't have an aura in here for him, unfortunately. I don't really have auras at all for the most part. Like, this is just a very, very ragtag team of heroes that I could throw together to try and get Semra 1 done, because I wasn't really too concerned about it, like, at all. So it is what it is. I forget actually even what my team placement is, but let's go ahead and do something like this. We'll place Vorn down here. We'll do something like this, and then this, and then this, I believe is how we do it. Abomination will go here. Helga here, sure. You here, and then we'll get Ingrid over here. And then we'll see what kind of damage everybody's able to do. So you can see, obviously, first coming in here, Vorn is not doing crazy numbers of damage. He is kind of in the same camp as Lust, which, you know, is good, right? Like, Lust does pretty decent damage. Helga doesn't have enough for her CC quite yet, so we're going to have to go ahead and do that now. But with the Playtest button from Elysia, as well as, obviously, the Helga attacks, we're absolutely going to clap this guy out of the water. We're going to max out the charges there without really too much of an issue. It goes up to 12, maybe, but, I mean, he's literally going to be healing us with this hit, so... yeah, Ingrid, obviously, as you can see, doing crazy damage, but that being said, he's doing more damage than Lord Phineas, which is not a fair comparison because we didn't pop the ult on Lord Phineas, so, you know, it's obviously not even close to the same thing. You can see that Lord Phineas is just passing him no problem once we pop the ultimate, but Lust, Elysia, and Helga are all doing significantly less damage, right? And it's obviously during this phase that I was most interested to have him, because it's going to be this phase where we actually get the defensive buffs up there. So we essentially do need to just try to make sure that the auto ult pays off, but I mean, it's going to be very hard to time considering that we don't really get to control it, unfortunately. Let's just go ahead and do this here. Get some heals coming in from the Aelin. You can see, though, very, very decent damage, like 6.5 million already. This is obviously APOC 1, so it's going to be significantly less damage than you'd expect to see in APOC 2 to get through this. Full rotation, though. We'll just go ahead and, you know, go until we get back around to phase 1 of the boss, essentially. You can see, though, we're bursting them down so quick, it's actually kind of crazy. Lord Phineas coming in here and doing his ult is pretty much going to put the boss, like, in the dumps. Lord Phineas on his ult is just absolutely insane, by the way. If you guys don't use him, highly recommend it. He is a very, very good hero, especially for Semra. My Helga is supposed to be placed over here, by the way, not all the way up, because then she doesn't get cleansed by my Medan, but it kind of is what it is. So, there we go. We ended the phase 3, so Lord Phineas and Ingrid had 18 and 22 million respectively, and then Vorn had about 10. But you know what? That's still on par damage with my Lucius. if not a little bit better. And my Lucius is very inconsistent with his buff removal. So I think I'll be switching over to Vorn for APOC 1. That being said, this has been a 25-minute showcase on this hero, so I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me yap about it by now. Let me know down below, though, if you use Vorn, if you have any tips or tricks or anything like that for anyone looking to build him out, team compositions, all that sort of good stuff. As always, though, thank you guys all so much for watching and the support on the channel. I'll see you next time.